Anyway, I completely agree with you, Al, but we should talk about that later, okay?
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Hey guys, this is Metachomp. I'm Mike Muncatchy.
And I'm Alex Muncatchy.
And we're here to bring you the breaking news of what's going on in the movie and video game industries. And today, we got a couple things on the slate today.
Mm-hmm.
So, Al, what are we going to be talking about?
Well,
and please pull no punches.
Oh, I never pull. God damn it.
That was good. That's good. That's staying in.
Okay, so, we have a few different things going on. Obviously, there's been the E3 demonstration that was actually behind closed doors for Cyberpunk 2077. I got the numbers right?
Yeah, you got those, nailed it.
Yeah, so that was that 50-minute demonstration that was behind closed doors for a very specific, group of guests. That was sort of, I think there was like an NDA thing, everything. That footage now has been made public.
It's like 45 minutes of gameplay.
It's 48, but it doesn't matter.
I am so sorry.
Okay, maybe it's 45 if you live in 2076. Okay,
sure, time moves faster.
But
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's good. It's good. But it's one of those things where when you have Cyberpunk, has been exciting. It's an exciting new project from CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, it was like a vaporware trailer back in 2013.
Yeah, there was this girl in I guess on the street, panties like Sigourney Weaver, just kind of like with her like arms open.
Sure, I'm thinking Avatar era Sigourney Weaver. Thanks for the visual.
Yeah, that's the best Sigourney Weaver. But no, it's one of those things too, because everyone was really excited about it because it's a massive franchise, and it's CD Projekt Red, and so The Witcher has been widely, arguably considered to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, RPG franchise.
Yep.
I myself have only played the first two Witchers. I actually played parts of the third one. I did not really care for it as much. I know this might get me crucified, but it's one of those things where I saw a lot of potential. I saw that they made the worlds bigger, but honestly, I kind of had like a GTA San Andreas feel to it, where like I could feel like there was so much of a visual jump in visual fidelity between Witcher 2 and Witcher 1.
Yeah.
That Witcher 3, I felt like was just not that much of an evolution with the visuals, and I thought that was kind of disappointing. But basically, this whole subject that we are going to be talking about with this podcast is really where open world RPGs are going.
Sure.
Because Bethesda, BioWare, CD Projekt Red, they're all going to be coming out with their big hitters. And so everyone has a different concept, different kind of a way of portraying where that franchise is going to be heading off, whether it be online, offline, and really be interesting to discuss the pros and cons, the benefits to those new directions.
What's your opinion of science fiction versus fantasy based online or RPGs, or because I've seen the gameplay for Cyberpunk. I think it looks like it's a very living world.
Yes.
But we've also kind of been screwed in the past with certain E3 showings, and was seeing a world that's a lot more detailed and densely populated than it ends up being at time of release. Do you think CD Projekt Red might be kind of cranking up a little bit of the detail?
It will. I mean, like, Cyberpunk looks phenomenal. Like the gunplay, the driving looks really great. The city, the draw distances, everything visually, the texture work, just the amount of objects and things to see and touch and feel in the game and what they were showing. It's just amazing. It's kind of what it's almost like playing Deus Ex Human Evolution back in like 2011 or so.
Yeah.
I almost think of like, oh, this is probably what Human Revolution was probably like. Back then, that's kind of how your brain fills in the gaps. Just like Ocarina of Time, you're imagining like, what was the game, the PS4 exclusive? The one with the redhead that runs around a post-apocalyptic world with the robots, the robot dinosaurs. The massive AAA. Horizon.
Zero Dawn.
So basically, I haven't had a chance to play that game, And I know I think you mentioned that you at least played a little bit of it or
Mm-hmm.
not. So like, everyone has a different concept, and that game looked visually identical to the original E3 demonstration. So I think it's going to be exciting to see what happens, because CD Projekt Red's pretty good, like, as far as keeping up with their promises. They're not. I don't think they're going to flub it like Guerrilla Games did with Killzone 2. I think they more than made up for it in Killzone Shadowfall. So it's like there's certain developers that kind of learn their lesson over time with, like, they may have had one bad showing and they might not have been able. They try their best to make sure it's remaining as faithful, but the amount of just the crowd population, all these moving pieces.
Yeah, the animations look amazing.
It's incredible. It would be very unrealistic for me to expect that level upon release. But if they can achieve half of that, I would be so happy. Because I feel like crowds. A lot of developers for a long time, they thought that by throwing more people, walking in more random directions, that was sufficient. That was believable enough. But now these people are like, there's a guy who's homeless, who's playing for change. He has a guitar. People smoking, people leaning against poles. It's kind of like the BioWare thing, where everyone's just kind of, there's a lot of posing going on, where everyone's kind of doing their own thing. And I guess they have full day and night cycles and schedules for every single person in that crowd.
Yeah.
Which is really pretty amazing. So people have routines. And you haven't seen routines like that since, like a Bethesda game.
Yeah, it's much more like a Bethesda game. Especially just with all the animations and with their behavior, like their daily behavior.
Yeah.
But that's also something that a lot of people said bothered them about The Witcher 3, was that the world is so densely populated that it's really difficult to even make a dent, because there is so much to do. There are so many missions and so many fetch quests and so much grinding that people have to do to really get anywhere in that game. That it's something that's kind of a challenge that will have to be overcome. It's unfortunate that neither you nor I have actually played The Witcher 3.
Well, like I said, I played like 10 hours of it. I haven't played a ton of it, really in contrast to what people, I know people from the 80s to 100 hours on it. But yeah, like I said, I guess it's just because of my hardware and stuff. I must be really shallow, but I feel like the trees actually bothered me, because the trees, they had the sway to them. You probably seen it in videos where the trees would sway like crazy. They would look like they're going through like almost like a seizure. And I found out that it actually was potentially an issue with if you have like a higher refresh rate monitor, that it somehow synced to that perfectly, to the point where like literally the animation cycle for the trees is directly tied. So it's 144 hertz, which is considerably faster than what they should be. And it's just little details like that where like I feel like they kind of and like I said, there are parts of the game that are gorgeous, but I feel like that was like, if I'm going to be in the wilderness, if I'm going to be exploring, it can take me out of the game. And maybe they fix it, and I'd love to jump back in if they did. But I think that I love the world building. Love the world building of the Witcher franchise. So I would love to see what they do with CD Projekt with CD Projekt Red. And I guess they have also way more employees. They have they have 800 employees. 800 employees at CD Projekt Red.
That's crazy.
So they are equipped to really put out anything that they want, and so I'm excited to see. It's like they're going all in. I'm excited.
Yeah, it sounds like talking about sports. They got a really good team this year. They got a roster of 800 people, and they are putting pedal to metal.
Well, so you think about like Ubisoft, for example. Like Ubisoft, when they did Assassin's Creed, was it Black Flag?
Yeah,
there was a collaboration with like 3 different Ubisofts all around the world, like Montreal, Detroit. The one guy working remote, he loves his job. Okay, he does. But all this massive worldwide collaboration. So like, I'm not saying that equates to a better game, but if you're looking for a game that's going to really be packing into the details, they're showing off every single person's manpower of recreating a truly dense, very livable, organic, futuristic city. Which is also funny enough. It seems like that's an issue where like futuristic cities are so clean and so like precise and minimalistic. They often forget the grime, and I feel like this is exciting because it's a nice tone of grime without being straight up post-apocalyptic as well.
Yeah, it's also not hyper realistic. There's still there's an element to the way the characters look that is stylized.
Yes,
without being cartoony. But they're stylized enough. Almost like a earlier Uncharted game.
I was gonna say like Dishonored. Arcane, they go a little bit more stylized than traditional, but the world itself has very realistic properties like water and texture work is still
the physics are predictable, yes. And the whole world like fits together nicely. There's
got to be a layer of abstraction to a lot of these games. I feel like that's important. I feel like that makes for a game that's a little bit more accessible, and we're not trying to pixel peep at certain details. Oh, this part of the ear. There's some translucency here. We're getting to the point where we're saying that, and it's like, come on, guys, like let's calm down here.
Well, they're backing back into the more stylized visual look
of Minecraft,
but to avoid exactly just like Minecraft, but to avoid the uncanny valley,
right?
Which still. I mean, we're not there yet. Whenever I hear people say, "Oh, we are as close as you're going to get to photorealism," I say, like, people have been saying that for a long time now.
Yeah,
they're like, it just doesn't get any better than this. But it's going to get a lot better. So we're going to be looking back at these games, and the games that aren't trying to do photorealistic graphics are going to age a lot better than the ones that are stylized.
Why do you think that? Like, I think Breath of the Wild, in particular, or Okami. Okami is kind of a very, very severe example because that's like super cel shaded.
It's a painting.
But I think that having a style like that, it makes something immortalizes it, makes it really timeless because there is no real metric. Sly Cooper, same exact thing, super stylized, cel shaded, cartoony, but very like Saturday morning cartoon, perfect. And there's no worry about, oh my god, in 10 years, I mean, yes, it's going to look a little blurry running on like on a high def display, and they can easily remaster it. It could still look very crisp and maintain that visual fidelity.
Yeah, but then if you play the PS2 game Primal, where it's very supposedly realistic, isn't exactly aged the best. In fact, it's more laughable.
I mean, or your favorite game for Sega Saturn was Bug.
Bug, yes. Bug juice. A horrible game. It's an absolute nightmare to play. I don't think I ever got past the third level.
I think the developers disowned it. I remember reading something about this before that the designer just was not having fun.
I think I literally became depressed playing that.
That, by the way, that I would say that probably was like the earliest version. Like I think From Software, I think they kind of took inspiration from Bug for Dark Souls because I feel like the insta-death stuff. Like it was a hard game, and it was under this cutesy aesthetic. It kind of reminds me. There's a few games that were like this, like Cuphead, super beautiful, cartoony. It looks like a 5-year-old can play it.
Like Gex, like those where they also try to inject humor into it.
Gex suffered from too many underwater levels. I don't understand that. That's like
underwater levels are when the developers like, let's just fuck with them.
Let's just pad up this game time.
Sonic nightmares.
Oh, that was awful because you watch him drown though. It's not even like a nice fade to black or anything.
You're watching a hedgehog drown.
It's like the Coen brothers depiction of a cartoon character drowning.
Yeah, it's terrifying. We should really do a supercut of just characters drowning in video games.
Yeah.
Also, what's the deal with like water being this like insta-death thing?
Well, GTA 3, he kind of flails around, and then I think the screen fades out, and then he says like wasted or something.
Wasted, yeah, that sounds like a GTA thing.
So it's either GTA or Tony Hawk. Who knows? Who knows?
The songs get stuck in my head from Tony Hawk though,
and GTA. The radio stations, perfect.
Yeah, Chatterbox.
But I actually, going back to that initial point though, where do you see the future of these games? Because they're getting larger. Franchises are taking longer traditionally, unless you're Ubisoft. They're taking longer to develop, these big games, these massive teams, and they're promising 30, 40, 50, 60 plus hours of gameplay. And it's not just, side quests and grinding. It also It can be expansive, and it's all about rebuilding, the world and make sure everything looks great. And you're noticing, the prevalence of online components. So you'll see like options for co-op multiplayer and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, we knew that was going to be a natural progression because, an online store like Horse Armor with Bethesda, like that's not bad, but I think Bethesda definitely, I imagine that they would have gone online a long time ago because the world is ripe for having a good buddy or something along to play and, go along to these caves and explore the world together. I think those are the kinds of games that are ripe for it.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts as far as the future of these massive, RPGs?
It's a really good question, Al. And it's something that I think we're going to have to continue to watch over time because the more online elements there are, the more immersion-breaking opportunities there are, too. So if you have a community that is very much into role-playing, is able to get into the characters and not just be a human being eating, maybe eating some game grub and playing for hours on end and just talking like a human being.
Right.
If you get those people actually behaving like the characters that they're meant to be impersonating, then I think it could be the most revolutionary thing
ever. So you want it like a Renaissance festival online?
Kind of like a Ren Fair, or Dungeons and Dragons. That's the issue though. Is you and I know from years of playing online, you're just going to be playing like you're a human being sitting on a couch or sitting on a chair playing a game. You're not going to be playing as this warrior looking for your armor. Because
you played, I remember that at the time there was Oblivion. You dressed up in full suit of armor.
I certainly did.
You had a second chair next to you with your sword resting on it. It was, I think, 3/4 scale, but it looked deadly.
Yeah, but also the chainmail. You have never seen chafing until you've worn chainmail on a hot leather chair for 3 hours.
It's a necessary thing. If you have to realize the game, you have to be in the game.
It's true. But however, I did enjoy drinking mead out of my wooden cup.
That was A&W.
Well, it had beer in it. Even if it's from a root.
It's important.
It's still...
it's the thought that counts.
It certainly is. This podcast is not brought to you by A&W.
Yes. So, yes, I would say that's kind of that is a big deal. I mean, I understand what you mean because there's always going to be sort of, anachronistic qualities with... having a modern time, playing in like an older, like a fantasy thing. And I get that to an extent, but I guess my only issue is as long as you give me a compelling single player and you're not forcing multiplayer components down my throat, you're not forcing me to play cooperatively, and I can tell, because there's the speculation that Fallout 76 is going towards a more of a broader online thing.
Yeah.
It's becoming, and it's weird because there's already their online Elder Scrolls Online. They already have ESO, which has been around for a long time. So
they're very well supported.
So they're gonna, is this the future of Fallout and Skyrim? Is that the future? Do you think? Is that really they're gonna make this into these big online properties?
I don't think so. I really think that there's still going to be room for those single player games.
Yeah.
But there will continue to be more online components. Mm-hmm. Sort of like the strange thing is, I want to play games where I'm playing it at my own pace. I don't feel like there's any humans that are going to be jumping in and just destroying the sense that I am actually the commander of my own world. I feel like that's one thing that disrupts massively multiplayer online games is that everyone's a protagonist, so it feels like no one is.
Right.
Which is why those single player experiences are so important. But there will still be those online components in terms of the digital stores. But that multiplayer component, it would be interesting to set up in a Fallout game settlements that are actually run by real people who are all communicating. But are you talking
about persistence?
Yeah, persistence, which I think is the holy grail of gaming. It's the promise of next generation gaming, and something that still hasn't really been able to be landed.
Let's talk about that for one quick second too. Is the fact that I don't care if you can make a very realistic character that has individual blood vessels burst in their eyeball, if they look at the sun for too long or they develop pink eye or something.
I want to see that now.
I don't care about that. If I kill someone, that body better stay there.
It better stay there.
It better stay there. If I, that was the one thing with Halo. Actually, it was Halo 2 and Halo 3. Halo 2 in particular, that the bodies, ragdoll bodies, would stay there. for the entire match.
That's
they wouldn't
awesome.
go away. They wouldn't disappear. So like you literally, after the game ended, you literally would just have this you just see, wow, this is what happened. This is who lived. This is who died. And you can see, oh, wow, I kept on dying over there because there's just a mountain of my bodies.
A mountain of me.
And, it's weird that we're even talking about this. But yeah, bullets, weapons, chests that were open, they need to stay open. Lockers need to stay open.
Like doors need to be, if they're exploded, they should remain exploded.
I don't want a Simpsons reload every time my time frame ends. I want to remember, and I want to feel like I'm making an impact.
Yeah, it's like density and quality versus,
and that's an issue.
Spaces.
That's with RAM. I think that's usually to do with the RAM.
It's RAM, but it's also just the physics system that games are made up of. Like if you have ragdoll, if you have volumetric, like any volumetric areas. Like Geomod technology from Red Faction, that ancient game, you could blow holes through walls.
And I was
going
to mention Red Faction as well.
Like, I mean, that was a great immersive, that was such an emergent gameplay experience.
Think about that.
Holes and walls.
I mean, you blow up crates in GoldenEye in 64, and they would respawn brand new within what? 30 seconds, 20 seconds.
Yeah, but if you throw a proximity mine in there before it's respawned,
and then it's a hidden surprise.
It's a hidden surprise.
But then you just have a year or two. I'm trying to think. A couple of years later, 2 years later, was Red Faction 1.
I think you're right, actually. Yeah.
So, like, how did we jump from that? I mean, we was within 2 or 3 years. Like, that was a massive, because you can in multiplayer, split screen multiplayer with that.
With Geomod.
I mean, that's incredible. And then, Red Faction Armageddon, not Red Faction Armageddon, Red Faction Guerrilla. We don't talk about Armageddon, okay? We don't.
It doesn't.
You don't take destructive environments and have this incredible, awe-inspiring technology and then just cram everyone underground and so they can't use it. I don't know what blog, if they were on like a live journal or something, and there was that one guy who's like, I want it to be underground, thank you. And that was it. But yeah, I mean, that for me is a big deal. Like, and you couple that with multiplayer, like online or RPGs.
Yeah.
I want to have. If I burnt down a forest, I want that thing to stay there.
Actually, you know what that reminds me of? You brought it up before about realism, but Minecraft. Minecraft is interesting because you can burrow way down into the earth and discover caverns and lava flows and creepers.
But it's uncanny.
It's so uncanny. I mean, the blocks. But imagine that with a more realistic game engine.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't need a giant wide open space because the whole, the battlefield would become that much more vertical.
Yeah.
Because you'd have that opportunity then to build and change things. Fallout 4 does it with the settlements, which is interesting. You're able to build structures, which I thought was amazing. It broke for me the storyline because I was just focusing on building settlements and making sure my settlers were happy.
And the ice. It broke the ice.
It did. It broke the ice.
But BioWare is doing the same thing where they're also trying to figure out what they want to do with Anthem. Anthem is going into territory which is very Destiny-esque, and Bungie promised us. Bungie, who is kind of arguably has mastered console online multiplayer. They promised us an engrossing single player campaign, and
it was just gross.
It was underwhelming. It was very short. It was kind of like finding a way to play like Gone Home and beat Gone Home in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. If you just don't explore the house, you can beat it in 5 minutes.
God, I hate that with speed runs.
Well, it's not even speed running. It's just literally going through one door, going out the other.
Really?
But, yeah. God. So but my thing with Destiny is that that was my fear, was that it was sort of I can tell the effort was definitely concentrating on having this continual support for multiplayer, the ecosystem there to develop raids, to develop this gear, the armor, and the weapons and everything else.
And you're some games you're playing the game.
I didn't buy Destiny for single player. I already knew coming in. I just didn't know how much of a shift there would be.
Well, it's also different when you're programming for when you're developing a game like that, because your goal then is not to develop a game that has a super immersive storyline per se.
Yeah.
It's to develop mechanics that keep the player inside the ecosystem so that they continuously buy the expansions.
And you inside the player, but
you inside the player. But that's the issue with open world games for the sake of being open world and mining the player for cash. Is that it's not about that. There's no end game. There's no actual ending to the storyline. It's purposefully kept open so that there's continuously more expansions to further the storyline, which is just different.
It's a different thing. And DLC that's being announced, we're still getting to the point. We're still having DLC being announced for games, 6 months, 8 months in advance, and we're like, okay, guys, really?
Getting a little excited.
This couldn't be put on the disc. I don't think you pressed the master yet. Okay,
first day, day one DLC.
Yeah, like we're still like that's still happening. Mm-hmm. Like there's been outcry, but then there's always the person that's like, I want the legendary set right now,
and that's why they make those sets. There's a very small population of people who are going to spend top dollar.
Whales?
That's
what they're called. No. I'm not like that. I mean, like, no. I mean, like, okay, so like in Star Citizen, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. So Star Citizen, they're called whales.
I'm just enjoying watching this.
So I've always wanted to fly.
Nixon.
But it's
Star Citizen.
Yes, there's a guy. You have an option for what was it, $15,000? I probably even more to buy every ship.
Oh yeah,
and there are people who are like,
though, but for some reason, I've just got a soft spot for Star Citizen because those ships are so well thought out. That community is so rich.
If the game came out, I would probably spend a little bit of money. I wouldn't spend $15,000.
I would play it for free happily.
But I mean, for a game that hasn't come out, probably will never come out, I take issue with that. And now you can't even get refunds. So that's fun stuff.
Also,
right?
But also, like, why would people expect to get refunds? I mean, like, if it's a digital, you're just downloading it. Why would you get a refund for something that you just downloaded?
Well, I mean, the argument made is that any purchases you make,
you're an idiot if you decide to buy a ship for $400.
And that's the argument. The argument is that if you're spending money on this and you're the expectation that the game is going to be, released and to be out. But I think that's my point with Wales is the fact that that's like, Star Citizen is a grade A.
I'm so glad that you brought back.
It's a grade A example of that small percentage of people that wants to get all the armor, get all the toys, all the ships, a lot of the toys.
Yeah, but about buying those expensive digital items, it reminds me a lot of cryptocurrency. It's something that you don't actually see in real life. It doesn't have a tangible value, but if everybody thinks that
does your horse have armor? Have you seen the commercials? But I mean,
does your horse have armor?
Because that's the question.
It's keeping up with the Joneses.
It is. I mean, I'll never forget. You used to be able to pimp out your Master Chief in Halo. You get to really make him. You get like custom emblems and all that stuff, and
the Red Bull skin jobs.
But I mean, I just think it's that part is I don't mind an online store. That argument is never to be made.
I think it's great.
I think it's great
if it doesn't hinder the person who's playing it for the cost of entrance.
Right.
Then I think it's great. If it breaks the game. It's a destabilizing factor that's put in there.
Like, I don't think people who look at Anthem, I don't think they're to be buying it for a single player. But if they go by BioWare's portfolio, they would be expecting, because people. I mean, let's be honest here. Okay, people don't buy Mass Effect for the incredible, gunplay. They play for the story. They play for the worlds. They play for the interactions, the deep branching dialogue,
the relationships,
and the relationships.
Oh God, the relationships. I think I'm speaking for most people in that the relationship stuff in BioWare games is what makes them.
It's great,
better.
It's great, and also like the great cinematic, the shots, the two shots, the reverse shots, and really having.
You're talking about Miranda.
It's just great to make sure we have it all angles. That's all. It's important.
It's true. Oh no, you're talking about Morden.
Morden. Oh, you know it.
Love him.
But it's it's this nice, very finely curated story, and it's very interesting, and it's original, and it's authentic. And I love that. And I think people are going for Anthem. I mean, I guess one of the questions was asked was Anthem going to have romancing options? And no, it's not. Obviously, I don't think few people really thought that was, but that was a question, and it was answered. And they have mentioned numerous times before in multiple interviews that they're distancing themselves away from that branching storyline, from a lot of those dialogue trees and stuff. This is going to be a different. The BioWare that we know is dead.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Mass Effect Andromeda came out, and
man,
BioWare
top shelf.
BioWare really wants us to forget about that game.
Yeah.
But I think it's that these online games are helping to funnel money for development.
This is the developer that made freaking Knights of the Old Republica.
Knights of the Old Republican.
Oh, that's a terrifying game. Survival horror.
You are Bob Dole.
No.
Remember that Pepsi commercial with Bob Dole watching Britney Spears on the TV, and he says to his dog, "Down, boy."
Just classy stuff.
It's the 90s, folks.
But yeah, that's people growing up with BioWare. They've kind of come to expect, but BioWare is not going after the people who played KOTOR 1 and 2. They're going after the people that played. No, hopefully not the people that played Andromeda. They're going after it for a new audience.
No, those people have subsequently killed themselves.
Yeah.
But I think what they're doing though is they're releasing this game. It's going to be a cash cow.
They're diversifying their portfolio.
They're diversifying, yeah. But I think they're just going to make a shit ton of money from Anthem,
from the whales,
and then what they're going to. Your words, not mine. But then they're going to put that money into single-player game development.
Is that really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's what it is. I think they're still going to pour money into hiring hitmen to kill the writers from Mass Effect Andromeda. Because they really need to clear the slate.
So it's like a big corporation. If we give them more money, they're going to hire more employees, right?
It's Cerberus all over again.
Michael Sheen. Not Michael Sheen. Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen.
Michael Sheen's the bad guy from Underworld. I get those two mixed up.
He's one. Can we talk about Underworld? Underrated.
Yeah. Underrated, more like it.
It came out years before Twilight.
Just like Andromeda, we don't talk about the later movies. Mm-hmm. But the first one was phenomenal. It was a lot of fun. It was campy. People make fun of it because it's unrealistic and stuff. It's vampires versus werewolves. It's the most realistic thing I've ever heard.
Oh yeah, and they call them what, thylacines? No, that's
the fan. Yeah, that's your fan fiction, Mike. Okay, stop trying.
Oh, God.
They're called Damocles.
They call Damocles.
Thyroids.
They're called thyroids.
They're called lichens.
Lichens, yes, they are called lichens. No, lichens.
Those thyroids.
But lichens are the things that also hang down from trees. It's like the mossy things. Lichens.
Well, we don't have those in this neck of the woods.
Thylacines are the Tasmanian tiger, the extinct.
You already said devil.
That's the devil. It is the devil. I've always wanted to play as the devil.
Yeah, so underrated. It's a fun, actually, one of the few vampire movies that does not have a crazy. Well, it has a romance angle to it, but it's not shoved down our throats and then expanded into 4,000 movies.
No, but Kate Beckinsale is wondrous as
great. Actually, I think her role as like a badass. It's weird that she really took off. I mean, I know that
it worked really well. I thought she was great in it.
The visual style was really cool.
The music by Paul Haslinger was tremendous.
By Paul Oakenfold.
Mm-hmm. Ready, steady, go. Do you remember that?
Oh, I love that.
Oh yeah,
that's the best part of Heat. Not Heat. Collateral.
Collateral.
The other Michael Mann movie that we talk about.
Rest in peace.
But yeah, so. Yeah, that was great. Darude Sandstorm a couple times. I mean, you gotta add in the classics.
But we are talking about an era where Zombie Nation was featured in Shaun of the Dead, and that was a great moment.
Well, was that Was that unironically or was that ironically?
It was definitely ironically. It was like the kid was listening to it on his
Oh,
headphones.
that's right. Because I think they use it as a transition because they had the music playing and then it actually then went super tinny.
Yeah.
As if it was just coming out of his skull.
So great. Edgar Wright. He's just got that.
Wright.
He can do no wrong.
I've heard that and I agree. One last little bit of information too, as well, that I'd like to cover with you.
Feed me with it.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has been rumored to be canceled or put on hold. What do you think?
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really something.
Dave Bautista's like, yo, dogs. He's like...
Randy Jackson as Dave Bautista. Yo, dog.
He's like, oh, what's his name? I just forgot the director's name.
Not James Gunn.
I was going to say Josh Trank. Josh Trank is not allowed in any movie studio.
I think he's in a spider hole in the Middle East.
I think he's in a Ralph's parking lot crying himself to sleep.
Yes.
But and I love, man.
He had promise. He had a lot of promise. It's the studio.
I was going to say Cloverfield. What is it called? Super? Not Super. What is this movie
Chronic.
Called? Chronicle. Yeah, Dr. Dre's. Chronic Dre's. The Chronic. The Chronic. Yes.
God.
No, Chronicle. Phenomenal lower budget movie.
Let's be honest though. Both Chronicle and the Fantastic Four borrow heavily from Akira. I think that's the movie that Josh Trank always wanted to make. Was Akira.
Well, just like how the Star Wars was, Flash Gordon.
We don't talk about that.
It was. I mean, that was like.
No, you're right.
Everyone kind of, cribs from one another.
It's true. It's very true. Excellent word choice. There is something special to be said though about what Josh Trank tried to do, and then what happened when the studio meddled with what his vision was. And I think what we're seeing is studios making hiring or firing decisions about these creatives, and then this is the simple outcry.
That's a hard C.
What's that?
Creatives.
Yeah, these creatives, yeah. Because they're hiring people.
X gonna give it to you.
X gonna give it to you. But James Gunn,
yes, writer
and director on both of those films, and they tried just getting rid of him, and now they're seeing. Guess what? There are a lot of people who actually really loves working with James Gunn. It's way different from somebody who's actually like a predator. There was a firing decision made based off of something that was said 10 years ago.
Right.
And if that were the case for everyone, we wouldn't even have Hollywood. Like there would be zero movies made.
Everyone's a predator.
And that's that's the issue.
And the Predator's coming out soon.
I know. This is good. This is a premature segue, but I really appreciate it. That was really good. But there's something to be said though about authoritarian speech when it comes to like having this 360 worldview, and if you deviate from that you have to be thrown out when the nearest troll speaks. There are trolls everywhere on the internet.
Can you blame Disney?
Yeah,
you can.
Absolutely.
There have been arguments being made online. The fact that Disney, even Gunn himself, said, you know what, they gave me a chance, and I had what's the guy's name that did Firefly? And
Joss Whedon.
Yes, Whedon spoke out on behalf of Disney and
of
Marvel,
course,
because he just said, you know what, I had no experience in superhero movies. I had no experience with CGI heavy spectacles, and they gave me the keys and they let me run with it.
And so Joss Whedon made Disney billions. James Gunn has made Disney over $1 billion.
So my point is that Disney hired him and he had his Scooby-Doo. He had Scooby-Doo as his portfolio. So they were taking risks. Obviously, they didn't know. Do you think they were aware of the previous tweets? What do you think?
Of course, because the tweets came out before his first movie with Disney, with Marvel.
So they vetted through all of his tweets.
Of course, they do that immediately. They full of any sort of dirt.
Yeah,
and they try to. They have an incredible team of lawyers.
Right,
like Disney is the most litigious motion picture company ever. They are the empire when it comes.
So the lawyers banked on the idea that no one would see the tweets.
I don't think the lawyers really found the tweets to be inhibited the ability for James Gunn to create the movie that he wanted to create.
But it's basically the culture of 2018 that basically kind of created something different.
I think what happened is Disney tried to take the high road, and it ended up just destroying the road that was actually paved by their best and most brilliant director.
Yeah.
The best director. Seriously. James Gunn what he did with Guardians
there's
is
no
being
argument.
replicated. It's completely changing the face of all the other all the other Marvel movies.
I mean, I think Whedon. I would say Whedon helped to shape, with the Avengers, because people thought Avengers would never been able to take off. I didn't even care for Avengers, but the group dynamic,
John Favreau, I feel actually did it
right. Comedy, and that's another character, another human being, another person who had had gigs as a comedic actor starring opposite Vince Vaughn in Swingers.
Yeah.
Not exactly like an illustrious portfolio that demonstrates, hey, you can do a comic book movie. So like I feel like,
but it also, I mean, look at any look at so many of these directors though. They come from not having made these big directors.
Remember, that was the trend of the past 5-6 years.
Yeah, you take an indie director, and then especially if they don't have really like a developed vision or a developed voice, and mold them so that they're easier to work with. They're more malleable.
Right.
They're more easy to control and fire anyone who actually has an opinion that's different, because Disney fires tons of directors on the projects that are in development. Like how many, like for the Solo movie, like, the Lego movie guys, like for Star Wars Episode 9, even Rian Johnson's career doing the next doing a trilogy is in jeopardy.
But Rian Johnson also took it a completely different direction. Do you think he listened to studio heads, or do you think that's his own creation?
I want to say that it's his own creation, because
that
movie was cray.
So they gave him full unfiltered access to do whatever you want with the Star Wars franchise, the storyline of a main entry into the Star Wars, anthology.
Yeah,
and all of it canon. So
and they made my opinion, a tremendous mistake.
So I guess my question to you then is that if are they handling people? Are they boxing them in? Like you said, they brought in independent directors, and they're kind of forcing them to make a movie that the studio itself sees as acceptable. But then they also give Rian Johnson. They gave him full control.
Because what is Star Wars: The Last Jedi all about? It's all about social, American issues, about feminine equality. It's about slavery.
Isn't that
PETA?
But isn't that usually a studio? Isn't that usually a studio-based decision rather than the decisions of a creative individual?
I'm positive that Kathleen Kennedy was in Rian Johnson's ear.
So whose vision is it then? Is it Rian Johnson or is it Disney?
It's both of them. It's both of them speaking as one. But whoever actually takes blame or credit, depending on how you feel about the film, is that's the product that we got. And The Last Jedi, in my opinion, is a product, and it's a shitty product. And I really did not like that movie at all.
No,
it was meandering and unfocused. However, James Gunn's movies.
Yeah,
they're focused. They're funny. They set up great characters. They set up a visual style and anachronistic music, and just heartfelt storylines. Tremendously well done. I mean, he really took what he learned during doing Scooby-Doo and a couple other movies that he did along the years. And
it's also because Chris Pratt is I don't know if the movies would have been as successful if Chris Pratt was not in the lead role.
Well, and James Gunn was a big part of getting Chris Pratt the role on Guardians.
Well, Dave Bautista has been the most vocal, which is upsetting to me, because I think Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana, Saldana, making 20 Avatar movies, and Chris Pratt becoming this massive multi-billion-dollar action hero, they're the ones that have the real credibility. They need to be speaking every bit way more vocally. They need to get out more and say something, because writing one letter is one thing, but Bautista is risking everything.
No, but writing that letter was a really big deal.
Batista's I'm not going to make another movie. I'm not going to make a movie. I'm going to turn my way.
It's great.
I'm going to walk away. If you're not going to even use the script, I'm going to back away. Now
it's great though.
Disney's calling the bluff, and now the third one will never be made.
Well, I'm sure that it will be made. If it's been on hold, it might be on hold for 6 months. With Disney's a giant machine, and they just think that they can
time. So you think they're going to use time and the passage of time to be able to kind of dull the controversy?
Absolutely. They're very smart about this stuff. They're like, all right, we're just going to wait for a little while, wait for things to kind of cool down, and then we're going to get a really exciting. Who's that guy? Oh, Taika Waititi. He's going to maybe he'll be the one to direct. I could see him doing very well.
I think in my mind there's a 95% chance that, because Thor Ragnarok was a phenomenal movie. It was well edited, well directed, gorgeous cinematography, very funny, and very timely, and just was perfect, cut from the same cloth as Guardians. It would be foolish for them to really choose anyone else.
Yeah, and the fact that he already he already did a Marvel movie, it would just make a lot of sense. But I mean, Disney thought they could just pluck out a director, have nobody notice, and move on and replace him with someone else, still use the script initially.
Well, my question to you now is, because obviously Rian Johnson deleted a ton of different tweets and everything else, and there's a lot of people that are trying to go through their Twitter history and whatnot to kind of clean up their act. It's a bummer. Then there's Deact a Day, which is like basically sort of like a movement to deactivate Twitter because of, you know, some of the more crazy, more provocative, you know, terms of hate speech and stuff like that too. And as well, I think that's amicable in certain elements, but I think it's also sending the wrong message, because I feel like that's sort of, you're backing away from a problem rather than actually embracing it.
It's like you're being super squeaky clean, but then you're still making movies that have a lot of violence and might have suggestive themes.
I mean, Rian Johnson has a whole new, I mean, he's in charge of a whole new trilogy. So do you think that's still on the table after what the incredible divisive nature is of Last Jedi?
Apparently it's in jeopardy. I don't know for certain, but because the movie was still so financially successful, and I don't know how the fuck they managed to do it, but it has a Rotten Tomatoes score above 90%, that it's crazy. Critics score over 90%, audience score below 50. It's really interesting just to see that kind of delta, and I've never actually seen that before.
Well, it's funny because a lot of the movies that you and I saw growing up, like most people would consider Dumb and Dumber and Liar Liar and Ace Ventura, like classics of comedy. But they were just mauled to death critically.
I don't think critics really even know how to watch comedies.
Comedies are tricky. I mean, Hangover, the original Hangover, while great, I mean, it was like masterpiece level, you know, like on Rotten Tomatoes. But it's also because it came out at a time where like there was like the recession and whatnot too. So like the timing of like, oh, let's see the one comedy that's in theaters. There's everything else.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good great adventure story, and
timing is everything.
Yeah, it was definitely like a fun, like really light movie.
Solo. I mean, another thing is, yet again, they had the whole thing with James Gunn, but then again, like you said, with Solo, the Christopher Miller, and Phil Lord, they were yanked for the project. It underperformed. I guess the recent news is the Meg has outgrossed Solo already. That's been a very big speculation about that.
But also with regards to Solo, I've attended a Q&A with the directors, with those guys for the Lego movie. And during the Q&A, these guys are very colorful with their language.
Right.
They swear like sailors. Super connected, but you know, weren't afraid to like say things that might have been considered to be a little bit more abrasive to the sensitive ears, you know, especially if there were any children in the crowd. So I imagine that in a way they might not have, you know, it's kind of like going to, I feel like Disney right now is turning into one of those, like, it's like your neighbor and you want, like, you're going over to see them, but you don't really know them very well, but they have a really nice house, so you feel like you have to like dress in your best clothes and put on your best behavior and make sure that your hair is combed and that you baked that special thing perfectly.
I was going to ask you, is it a casserole you bring over?
It's a casserole, but it's got spinach on the inside and like some like provolone too that kind of rings it.
You have to have pot holders too?
It's hot. Yeah, you got to have hot hands or some sort of like pot holder.
Okay.
But you walk up there and Disney opens the door. It's like, oh, please come in. Could you please take off your shoes? As opposed to a friend's place that you come, you visit, you're able to be open-minded and hang out.
Well, you have to understand that they're offering you an opportunity to play with, you know, like to play with the big dogs, to be able to be massive and to be big, and you will have to concede some of that creative freedom and that speech in order to basically be backed by a $1 billion, you know, massive corporation.
Normally I would say that, but not with James Gunn, because he wrote Guardians 1 and 2. He directed both of them too, so he came with the idea and with the movie.
Well, then again, think about this. Think about the time frame. Thor 2, The Dark World, which was directed by one of your favorite directors, the guy keep saying Kenneth Branagh. No, that was it. The first Kenneth Branagh did the first Thor or the second Thor, I forgot. But it was the guy who did Shakespeare, John Madden. I think he did the second one. I don't remember. It was a flip-flop of one. But they were getting really, really serious. The whole line, like I need a horse. That one line when he's like, this is a pet shop, and then when Thor, that conversation when he gets to Earth and there's this like,
he's in the diary,
he's walking down the street and he's like, and they're like, is there like a Renaissance festival? Like a bunch of like there was a lot of humor, not a lot of humor, but the very specific pointed times of humor would put
fish out of water,
perfect, and people responded to that. Where test screenings show that, you know what, I don't want dire, dull, just kind of brooding Spider-Man 3-esque Thor. I want someone who's just having fun. This comic book movie, this escapism at its finest.
Yeah, he's the only character in the whole Marvel universe who's actually becoming lighter as time goes on.
Yes.
Everyone else is becoming super depressed and
course.
dark. Tony Stark is now Batman, but you see Thor and he's like, "Oh, I know this guy. We work together."
Yeah.
But Thor used to be the guy who was super serious.
Right. I mean, he's referred to in Avengers, as like the sexy space pirate, which is kind of hilarious. But it's like you would never hear anything like that from any of the other of his earlier movies, because it was always like Anthony Hopkins was given like a very traditional, almost Shakespearean effort, and they're trying to legitimize it at the lore as something ultra serious and mature. Because Marvel had an issue where everything was a little bit too light and colorful, and then DC had a thing where they were going really dark and very like brooding and all that stuff too. Which is great, but it's also like it shows to me like James Gunn came in at a time, and I think he really did pitch it as such, where he just basically said, let's make a movie, let's have fun. Let's bring in people. You know what? Let's take the best parts of the group dynamic that Joss Whedon provided for Avengers. Let's make this into an experience. You're just joining us, a ragtag of group of misfits.
Yeah, the most colorful movie that Marvel has ever done.
And let's just have fun. Let's go on adventures. Even like Chris Pratt talking about that idea. It's like it's almost like a childlike fascination, like a Spielbergian wonder of like, let's explore the galaxy. Yeah. Let's just be a bunch of badass heroes and let's do our thing. And I think at the time, Marvel was definitely at a crossroads, because Jon Favreau threw in a lot of humor with Iron Man, but that was really the only franchise at the time that was actually sticking with the levity, and everything was light-footed, and there wasn't this massive amount of like moral complexity.
Right.
Dark Knight was, and Batman trilogy, was still doing its thing. So like everyone kind of had their own feel, and they didn't really know where to go. So that kind of is my own shorthanded response of just the timeliness of James Gunn.
It's true,
which is great.
I still think it's wrong. I
do too.
I still think it's wrong, and I also the best people to listen to when it comes to like whether it's right or wrong is like listen to comedians like Bill Burr, like Hannibal Buress, like those. Like all these other comedians who've said shit that's off color for years and years and have to stand by it, and it's like they're
comedians though.
Yeah, but so is James Gunn. I mean, he wrote Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a funny film.
He's not considered a comedian though.
He's a comic writer.
Marilyn Manson. Remember this conversation I had with you before? Marilyn Manson,
who is absolutely a comedian,
but he's a shock rocker. He's a rocker. He's an artist. He's literally his entire shtick is shock. So when he has like a Donald Trump being decapitated, generally some people are going to be outraged, but he doesn't have to worry about this barrage of controversy, because he's like, it's Marilyn Manson. This is a guy like Rammstein that literally shoots pig blood into the audience.
Yeah, but that's like shock rocker is fine. But it's also, we're talking about an individual who has had a backbone in comedy for years. And that tweet, when it came out, was 2008.
I guess another thing is, were the tweets themselves comedic in tone?
Yes, they were. Most of them even say that they're jokes. Most of them say that.
Jokes
and anybody who
says
like, jokes are meant to be provocative. That's actually the point of comedy, is to provoke conversation, provoke a reaction, to get people to actually think and react in a colorful way. That's the whole point of comedy.
So how do you think Chappelle survived?
He's also, I mean, he disappeared for 12 years.
Well, because he was offered too much money.
Dave Chappelle was gone for the entire length between James Gunn writing the tweet and then James Gunn getting fired from Guardians 3. I don't feel bad for James Gunn, because he's had great opportunities to work on Guardians 1 and 2.
I just feel
I just feel like Disney themselves just shot themselves in the foot.
I agree.
And they just handed the
you.
best director that they've ever had. They're just handing him off to another studio. DC's going to scoop him up. Like Universal, the big studios, who knows, maybe even with like the Dark Universe. You never know. But it's
he'll find work, no doubt.
Well, he was able to find work at Disney with those tweets already on his record and known about. But then conservative troll brought it up, made it a big human rights issue.
And the reason why we're segmenting a lot of this part of the podcast with this subject, because it is, with both of us living in California and in Los Angeles, like it is a conversation that's dominating. It still is dominating a lot of the industry. It is a conversation that is incredibly important because it does ask really what the limits are. That what are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up anything? If you are tasked, if you are really a relatively unknown director, or you've made a couple different smaller productions, or any creative individual, what are you willing to forgo to get that paycheck? And what is safe? What is not safe? It's a conversation that's actually scaring a lot of people because they don't. It does admittedly set a very dangerous precedent because it means that literally Facebook and Twitter is all about a timeline, a history that has just continually kept track of every facet of your involvement, everything you've said.
Yeah.
And so when can it really hold up into the past? And when should you feel accountable? What should be considered accountable?
But also, why even accountable? Like, I feel like the decision to can gun over 10-year-old tweets was very Soviet. It was very
I would say Disney needs to get rid of John Lasseter so they don't look like massive hypocrites.
But also John Lasseter was actually touching people,
and John Lasseter is still working there. Trust me, I understand. I get your point of view entirely, and I love James Gunn. Like, you and I were one of 3 people that love Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, well, and he's done other things. Scooby-Doo is like 2003 or 2001. He's worked on other movies.
You know the date because it was our favorite movie. Okay,
I freaking love it. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr.
Freddie Prinze Jr.
He's so good in it.
And
Sugar Ray.
But I mean, Sugar Ray. That's right. And what's his name? Bean,
yeah. When Bean,
I can't think of Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah.
So
he actually sounds like a Marvel villain.
Bean,
Rowan Atkinson. Bean. Behold, Bean.
You know Thanos, but do you know Bean?
Bean is here.
Bean.
He's super quiet. Like, he doesn't actually make any sound. He doesn't talk.
And then then he just,
here comes Bean. Here he goes. Here's his speech.
And he did play Bean. He did play himself. Well, he played Bean in I was gonna say The Great Escape in Rat Race.
Oh, that great Nazi movie.
In Rat Race, which is basically like The Great Escape to the Treasure, right?
It's very true.
But yeah, that's crazy. I hope the world. I wish James Gunn the best of luck and whatever he needs to do. He's incredibly talented. I don't think his talents, I don't think he'll have any issue getting work elsewhere.
No. Like, that's not the point. Like, the principle is more the point.
Principle.
And
why it's
like we're not. It's not like poor James.
Mike, you set up
James Gunn.
You've set up a GoFundMe for him.
I want to make sure that his 12 houses are.
You also wanted
he's had to fire one of his 14 yard workers.
That's unbelievable.
We need to,
because you were also on this whole thing. Let's help
the whales. Save the whales.
No, who is it? Who's the Jenner? Kylie Jenner.
Yep.
She's supposedly like on the track for $1 billion to be the youngest person ever to have achieved $1 billion at like 20 or 21 years old. And there was a joke that said that there was a GoFundMe set up so she could reach her last $2 million before, like, I guess like the start of next year or something.
Yeah, that makes me really sick.
It was a joke though. Thank the Lord, society is still holding on.
I bet if we look on GoFundMe, there are a bunch.
There are. It's in the thousands.
Oh gosh,
she's struggling. Okay,
she is really.
She and James Gunn need to pair up and have that.
Yeah, well, for Kylie though, she needs to have a commercial sung over by Michelle or by
Gellar,
McLaughlin.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
God damn it. Sarah McLachlan.
McLaughlin. That's my rap name. You say McLaughlin or McLaughlin? Because McLaughlin is my rap name.
The only thing is, I said whichever one is correct. But no, I agree. I think we can agree to disagree. It's okay that you're on the side of Disney and then I'm on the side of the free people. I am not on the side. This is definitely our Disney. This is our Captain America Civil War. Okay.
Who are you?
We were friends once.
Wait a second. Who are you?
I don't know which side was which. It was flipped. It was Tony should have been the side of non-regulation. Captain America should have been the side of regulation, but it was flipped.
Who's the guy with the arrows?
Oh,
I just had a total mind blank. I can't think of the character name.
Not Nightcrawler.
No.
What was his name?
By the way, I honestly
no. Let's not leave that.
No, I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't know, and I forgot the name of
Arrow Man.
Arrow Man. That's the side that I'm on. You're Ant-Man, and I'm Hurt Locker. That's his nickname. Is Hurt Locker.
What is his name? Our audience of one is screaming.
So I guess that makes sense. If he's not in Infinity War, that must make sense because he just can't be in the mind. He
should have died 5 minutes into the Avengers. He should have been the first person to die.
I would like a Coen Brothers death where he just gets shot point blank with a shotgun.
Yeah, and then everyone's still like, they don't even notice until the end of the movie. They're eating shawarma and they look around. They're like, where the hell is Arrow guy? Where is the Arrow dude?
So what's his name? This is bad. Our comic book credentials just went out the door.
It's very true.
But I mean, I'm excited to see.
But it also tells you just how memorable that character is.
Yeah, Nighthawk. That's a router. That's a router. Arrow. Death. I was gonna say Deathstroke, but that's
DC.
That's where my alliance is.
Nighthawk. Hawkeye.
The Nighthawk 7000.
Nighthawk.
Ultimate range.
Yeah, what's your bandwidth, bro?
3,000 megabits a second. Aerodynamic. Looks like a stealth bomber. Doesn't take off though.
I love it. It's like, I'm part of the Avengers, and I can just fire arrows.
Yeah, Hawkeye. Yes. Hurt Locker, Jeremy Renner.
Yep.
I was going to say Jeremy Piven. Piven comes up. Ron Jeremy Piven, all of them. They all come up just with...
They all come up.
Yeah. No, not like
they've
that.
all had long, hard careers.
Yeah.
Way to stick it to the man.
Only the best possible way. But what was the point that you were trying to make with Jeremy Iron, with Hawkeye? Oh,
Jeremy Iron.
Jeremy Iron. Jeremy, what's his name? Not Jeremy Piven, not Jeremy Iron.
Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Iron. He's the butler.
The most porny of all the names.
He's the butler.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like, you're gonna go find another lady in your dreams, Alfred.
Alfred.
That movie is way funnier than people give it credit for.
Yeah, I agree, but the guy who played Simon, the badass. It's like, what is it with DC where the either lieutenant, freaking Gary Oldman, who plays the craziest guy in Leon the Professional and Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Just characteristic badass of a bad guy. Mm-hmm. And it's always relegated to someone kind of like a side character. Well, Jeremy Iron is Simon.
Yeah, what about Tinker Tailor Soldier? I got 20 minutes into that movie and I had the best dreams of my life.
By the way, do you know what the riddle was? I never understood the riddle with the water.
For what, Tinker Tailor? Were they filling up the... Wait.
I was going to do Alan Arkin. Alan Rickman.
Wait, I want to hear this.
What?
Because no, do it.
I was gonna say, like, there's 20 hours. There's a what is it?
That's
like,
good.
What is it? What did he say? It's like
20 hours.
One bottle, two. You have 40 bottles. You have 37. Fill it up so it goes 1 to 2. Love me, sex machine.
Yeah.
Everyone just sounds like Busta Rhymes.
The best of us. Actually, I'm sorry, that was horrible. But
no, it was perfect.
Actually, that part though did not make any sense.
On the bathroom floor.
They're just filling up jugs with different like.
I've watched it a couple times, like, and they get super excited, and then
they're shooting out meth, meth.
And he's like 1 gallon, 1 gallon, and
how many ounces in a gallon?
And I'm just like. I'm like that sad odd man out that just doesn't. I'm like, okay, at least they get it.
Also, they don't even have phones, so they're not even looking anything up. So that means that they were perfectly able to measure out water in the different amounts without even using a phone.
I will say this as well, because I think this kind of brings in my larger point back to the very beginning of this podcast, which is that we talked about open world games. And I feel like Die Hard with the I was gonna say Die Hard Resurrection. Yeah, you know that one.
Al, don't tempt them. That sounds like a sequel name.
Yeah, you know, like Ripley and Newt.
Did you say with erection?
Yeah, Ripley and Newt.
They mostly come out at night.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the Die Hard that I'm talking about. No, I'm talking about Die Hard with a Vengeance. It starts small. Gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's more locations and more locale and everything else, and it's like amazing. Like it goes on and on and on and on, and the world gets more expansive. It's like I want my games to be like that. I want to start small. I want to be able to live small and live comfortably and do my own thing, and then work out this game and RPG in my own fashion. But then if I really wanted to, if I wanted to branch out, yeah, if there's like story packs and DLCs and whatnot, sure, do it as well. But I feel like that's kind of like I don't know. As you probably can tell, I watched Die Hard with a Vengeance relatively recently, and I'll say that
the way that they smell it on your breath.
You know, they just a pack of Newports and a white beater. That's what it is. But it's, you know,
that sounds like something you would say. A pack of Newports.
Yeah. So, but for me, it's you know, but the idea was in Die Hard, like Die Hard 1 was literally took place. It was like the Saw, right? Like the Saw of action movies, where it kind of took place in one hotel.
Yeah.
And they made it bigger and bigger and bigger. And they really, you go all over the place. You go over a bridge. You go into like an elementary school down the block. You go inside, you know, shafts and mines and a tunnel and, you know, excavation area with the water.
It does escalate.
It just gets bigger and bigger. But it doesn't get bloated. It still is so refined.
It's focused.
And it's so intent. Everything feels like it's shot with so much intent, and it feels, like you said, very focused. And I think for me, like,
that's a brilliant observation.
For me, I feel like RPGs are like they need to do that. I think that BioWare did a phenomenal job with kind of breaking up their planets and stuff and making you want to explore and everything else.
Yeah.
And I feel like, but I like it that you can work out on the home planet. You can still do a bunch of things. And you're not going to feel like you're, you know, that the content itself is being cast.
Right. You're not just like plopped in the giant world. It's like you're focused.
We need to start small. Like Zelda. Yeah. Zelda Ocarina of Time, you start off pretty small, and it takes you quite a while before you even get to Hyrule Field.
It's true.
So, like, I think
great band, Hyrule Field.
Oh, it's the best. So, I mean, I would love to see that come back and more focused.
In Mass Effect 2, you're basically just building your team. Like that, almost that whole game, you're building your team.
It's like fan fiction for Avengers.
It really is. With Jeremy Piven as Nighthawk. Guys, this has been another episode of Metachomp. I'd like to thank you for listening. You know what? Let's give our audience a hand. Give them a hand.
Oh, that hand. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Make sure you like exfoliate and really like wash those hands after. Okay. After what just happened.
Okay.
But honestly, though, it was really wonderful talking and having you guys listen to our beautiful voices. We are very, very excited to announce that we will be launching a brand new MySpace page shortly.
Yes.
Al, where can we find you online?
You can find us in specific rare cartridges of Game Boy Pocket games.
Okay.
You can find us on like part of the music creation selection of a Game Boy camera.
Good. But be sure also just to catch us on all the, Pringles.com
and all that.
And make sure you check out Nerdbox. Nerdbox is a monthly subscription where you just get a bunch of nerdy stuff. Geek Package. It's a service also. It's monthly, and you get all sorts of like nerdy things from your favorite. Why are you looking at me like that? But anyway, Thank you for listening. This has been Metachomp. I'm Mike Muncatchy.
And I'm Alex Muncatchy.
And we out.